it is, and energizing and optimism kind of floats around the country. What Andrew Yang did for this country and continues to do is a blessing to all of us, because I would argue democracy dies without competition. What do you think of that? Woo! Competition makes this country better value, better ideas, innovations. That's what he brought to this. I am so honored to have him with me, and most of all of you.
Woo!
Nice to see you, New Hampshire.
Nice to meet you.
Let me rephrase that. New Hampshire. It is good to be here. And I am so grateful to all of you for taking some time. Now look, there are a lot of things I want to do as president. First of all, restore competency, decency, integrity to the United States government, which is lacking woefully. Courage. How about a little courage? You're all ready for some?
Yeah, courage!
We're willing to put the country and principles over self-preservation. We have a disease, and it's focused on self-preservation. We have a crisis of participation. That's what this is all about. That's why I'm so grateful to all of you. I will be the first AI president in American history. Andrew just said it. Men in their 80s, frankly, even good men, good women, are not in a position to anticipate and prepare us for the future. We had 100 years to prepare for climate change. We knew 100 years ago what would happen by burning fossil fuels. And what did we do? Nothing. AI, my friends, we don't have 100 years. We have months, if not just a couple years at the most. I anticipate it, I'm prepared for it, and I will be our first AI president. But how do we start? We start by doing what you do in America, bringing together the best and brightest from all over the country, industry leaders, community leaders, those who will be affected by AI. I hope you all know this.
Yeah.
It will be the most transformational technology in human history. It is going to save us all costs. It is going to make the federal government, if someone's willing to actually invest in it, much more effective and efficient. It is going to generate health outcomes that will transcend anything we could dream about right now. Create new medicines, generate new ideas. It's going to be beautiful, but it also has great risks. It's going to disenfranchise this economy. It's going to be disruptive in ways that we can actually anticipate. But if we do nothing now, which is what is happening right now in Washington, nothing. I will be our first AI president. I'm going to put together a task force of the best and brightest to anticipate what's coming and make recommendations, as we do here, to employ best practices, to put guardrails on the nefarious use of AI, but most importantly, let's talk about the blessings of AI. And when we are fearful of new things, what do we do first? We overregulate, because we don't even think about what's possible. And let me tell you, I come from a Congress in which I'm a youthful guy, if you can imagine that.
Cool.
We don't have people right now. We have very few people who even understand it. And if you do not understand it, all you want to do is regulate it. I want to be the leader of AI. I want to employ it in our federal government.
Cool.
How about that? To save costs, develop better outcomes. How many of you are waiting for checks from the IRS for too long?
Yes.
How many of you can't get any customer service phone answered at any of the federal agencies, right?
Yep.
Right. That's how we're going to change things. We can do better, and I promise you I will. We also have to pass something called the AI Act. The Europeans have already done it because they are ahead of us. But this technology was invented here. It is an American ingenuity. So we should prepare for it. Make sure there's no nefarious use, but not stifle the innovations that will make life so much more extraordinary, not just for Americans, but for the whole world. We also need to establish a Department of Artificial Intelligence.
Yes, yes.
The Department of AI and Washington to essentially be the overseers of this extraordinary opportunity, both protecting us from the worst uses of it, but also encouraging the best uses of it. Does that sound reasonable to you?
Yeah, I study cybersecurity. Yes, you're right. NYU.
And then this country has got to start having a conversation about data privacy. Your data,
Edward Snowden,
that is being used by other companies to make billions and billions of dollars. We got to protect our kids, our teenagers, all of us. And you know what else we have to do? We have to get off the screens a little bit sometimes. Let's not be overcome by all this. Let's get together with human beings and meet each other in coffee shops and on the streets and not let this take over. That's how we actually anticipate the future. So, if you can't tell, with Andrew Yang and me, Dean Phillips, and a whole generation just waiting for somebody to lead us to the future, we're ready for you. Are you ready for us?
Yeah.
Ready for change?
A new generation of Americans!
January 23rd, you guys. You know what the Democratic National Committee did to all of you Granite Staters. Now, most of the country isn't aware of it. I don't need to explain it. It is repulsive. It is suppressive. I think it is downright unconstitutional and certainly anti-democratic. So what of a better outcome could we give this country on January 23rd than to demonstrate to the Democratic National Committee, and frankly both parties, that who's still got the power? You do!
Woo!
You do! And all
Thank
gotta do
you.
is vote. So seize that back. Let's return decency, integrity, competency to this country. Let's move to the future. Let's not just look backwards and vote out of fear. Let's vote out of hope.
Thank
and
you.
Optimism and joy.
Woo!
You can do it, everybody. I love you all. I can't wait to hear your questions and help us move to the future. It is going to be bright. All right. Questions?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
We don't like to see what you're talking about, but thanks. I'll hold it.
Okay, well, here.
But we also know that the real problem is that a majority of those that we elect to both Congress and also to our legislators are not addressing the biggest problems that concern citizens, and it's led us downhill to where we are today. So in order to implement what you're talking about, we have to make the whole process more competitive, inclusive, equitable, and so forth. And there are a whole bunch of system changes to the way we finance and structure the process that will unlock progress on all the things you're talking about. So my question is, what are those pieces and what are you willing to support in order to implement what you're talking about?
Great question. This is going to be an ironic answer. The way to solve this problem isn't actually through artificial intelligence or new technology. It is actually the most analog, old-fashioned way imaginable. Human relationships. I come to you as the second most bipartisan member of the entire United States Congress. That's every senator,
Woo!
every member of the House, and actually all 50 governors. 585 elected officials. I'm number 2. Now I'm a...
Woo!
Why is that the most important thing imaginable? Because I am someone who has the relationships that is already working with both sides of the aisle. I was the vice chair of the Problem Solvers Caucus. Any of you familiar with the Problem Solvers? Yeah, good, a few people. The sad truth is, we on the Problem Solvers Caucus are the workhorses, not the show horses. Everybody in this country would have known me a lot better by the time I declared my candidacy if I was just willing to be a jerk. And the good news is, when you're not that well known, 2/3 of the country don't hate me. But I digress. My point is this. My point is this. Don't get caught up in this nonsense that both, by the way, don't get caught up in this delusion that the two-party system is the answer to our challenges. It is the most difficult challenge we might be facing in this country. They are not working for us.
Third
They're
party.
working for themselves, and we need to seize that back. But it is what it is. And I tell you right now, the answer is very simple. Working together. I am respected and in some cases even beloved by my Republican colleagues who I'm friends with because I know how to work together. And that's what I do in Congress. That's why I, coming from the private sector, do this differently. When you are brought up in the political culture, you only know one thing. Fighting each other every 2 or 4 or 6 years to win for your team.
And greed.
Not for the country. So that is my solution, believe it or not. I know how to do this. I'm already doing it. And I promise you, on subjects like artificial intelligence, securing our southern border, war and peace, right?
Woo!
Raising the foundation for every American. These are not difficult to solve if you have someone in the White House who wakes up every single morning and goes to sleep every single night wanting to work together. So that's my solution. It is not old-fashioned, but believe it or not, it's exactly what we need.
Woo! Question.
We need to make
How
more
about from our, I love the red vests, because I'm a member. By the way, how many other jobs in America can a 54-year-old be considered a youth?
DoorDash.
Well, thank you for joining us. My name is Mary and I am a volunteer with AARP New Hampshire. And as you know, there are many pressing issues for the 50 plus, but one that doesn't seem to get recognition is that of caregiving.
Yep.
A lot of us in this room and throughout our lifetime have been caregivers to a parent, to a child,
Me.
to an aunt, to an uncle. And it even affects those
My
who do
grandpa,
not
Joe.
have any family present. If they get ill, who's gonna care for them? When you're president, or if elected as president, what would be your plan to help the caregivers in this country?
I'm so glad you asked that question. And I'm sure there are people in this room, myself included, who have faced those challenges. And as a person of privilege, I know how hard it was for my family. I can only imagine what it's like when you can barely make ends meet and you have a mother or a father or a child who needs care at home and you can't leave your job and you don't know what to do. This is actually dovetails with AI. You know, AI cannot solve that problem. We're not going to have a machine take care of anyone's mom or dad or child. AI is going to disrupt this economy. It might affect up to 40% of the jobs in the United States of America. So to me, what a grand opportunity to start redirecting people to the very jobs that right now are going unfilled, industries that need to be brought up, including caregiving. And how about this beautiful thing? America is still a nation of immigrants, and we must protect that. Caregiving is a human trait. It is practiced in every community in the world.
Vietnam.
No matter your religion, your race, your country, your geography. We should be attracting people from around the world, Americans themselves too, create an industry of people who are compassionate, able, well compensated to provide the care we need so that people who otherwise could go out and work and build businesses and brands and help others can do so. So that's my answer. And it's a matter of not a lack of resources, it is how we dedicate our resources.
Thank you.
We are a country that is so extraordinarily wealthy. But I'll tell you, as Hubert Humphrey said, the test of a government is how it treats those in the dawn of life, the dusk of life, and in the shadows of life.
Woo!
And we are not doing this the way that everybody I think in this room would like. And that is why when
Wave!
we redirect our resources to the places where we need to raise the foundation, and caregiving in the beginning of life, from childcare to paid leave to caregiving in later stages of life, will be elemental to my platform. Absolutely, 100%, and thank you.
Thank you.
How about the gentleman in the
I
very
apologize. I apologize. Yeah. I'll watch next time.
Governor Whitmer, to Governor of California, to Mr. Pritzker, to run against as a primary opponent. Well, where will you select the people to populate your administration if those are the people that you're seeking out first? Because those are the people who won't do what you want to do.
I'm so glad you said that. I will be a very different leader of this country. I think the one that we really need. Let me start with how I will do it, and I'll answer your question. Let me to answer your question. I will be the first president in recent history, maybe even since Abraham Lincoln, that had the intention of bringing together a team of rivals. Our country has never needed competitors, adversaries, to sit at the same table and make decisions for this country. If we do not do that, we are in deep trouble. I will populate my cabinet. I will populate my cabinet with the very best and brightest Americans. I do not care about politics. I do care about principles. I care about experience, capacity, and competency. We populate our cabinets with politicians. And I don't know about you, I'm not very pleased with the results. So that's one. I will not just put politicians for political gain at my table. Just the opposite. People who have led multi-billion-dollar organizations and entities that know how to manage human beings, incentive structures, how to read balance sheets and P&Ls, how to focus on customer service, how to deploy technology to improve outcomes. Sadly, we've not had presidents that look at this like that. So I called the people you just referenced because they are the better known candidates, proximate and able and prepared to run in an election. Not against Joe Biden, but for the presidency. And yes, I think we should assess Americans based on their willingness to meet the moment versus meeting their own aspirations. And every person that had a chance to join this race at a time when I did, chose not to, not because they don't know the country is at grave risk right now. They chose not to because they feared it might hurt their chances in 2028. There may not be a 2028 if we allow Donald Trump to return to the White House. That's my proposition, that is the truth, and do not be deluded into believing that Joe Biden is in a position to beat Donald Trump.
He's not.
That is the problem. And that's why I called those people, and I promise you, we will search far and wide for the best Americans to repopulate the centers of democracy in Washington. I'd like to actually spread out democracy around the country. Let's move our agencies to different parts of this country so that other people will have a chance to participate in building the country, in investing in the future, and actually populating the agencies of great importance around our country. Washington is a culture that really has to be disrupted, and I promise you I will be the disruptor. If you can't tell, I have a little bit of courage.
Woo! Dean. Okay.
Oh, right, I'm sorry.
Hi.
Hey.
How are you? I saw you in Exeter with my
Yes.
sister and
That's
my
right. Nice to see you
daughters.
guys.
And my 15-year-old daughter now has the Courage poster.
I love it.
Yes, and so it's very
Mission
uplifting.
accomplished.
Yes. I would so love to see you in the White House, and but I know the importance of you reaching out to, first of all, you're so disgusted with the parties, right? So I'm curious as to why you are in the Democratic category rather than independent. Independence, I'm registered as a Democrat, but I was listening a lot to Chris Christie, this moderate, middle of the road.
Yeah.
One of my favorite podcasts is Ink Stained Wretches. I think you're related to that, Eliana. But anyway, I'm blabbing, but I've got so many thoughts, but to really speak to not only the independents, but the Republicans too,
I'll tell you why. Because, look, I was anointed a Democrat by my grandmother, dear Abby, in 1980. Hours after I'd seen John Anderson, the Republican member of Congress from Illinois, who declared his candidacy as an independent. Think about the connection here. To take on, to run for the presidency in 1980. He appeared at my school one day, middle school. I was 11 years old. John Anderson speaks. And I was wowed. He talked about independence and actually money in politics. Can you imagine that? In 1980. I go to dinner that night with my whole family, 4 generations of my family. I sit next to my grandmother, Abby. She asked about my day. I said it was amazing. The next president of the United States actually came to our school and spoke. And she said, honey, I don't think if he's speaking to middle schoolers, whoever that is going to be president. So note to self, my team, no middle school. No, I'm just kidding. And then she stopped me and she said, Dean, are you a Democrat or Republican? And I said, Grandma, I'm 11 years old. I do not know what those are. And she said, you're a Democrat. I literally went home that night, got on this little stool we had into my parents' bookshelf, and I found the World Book Encyclopedia and looked up Democrats and Republicans, and I still didn't totally understand, which, frankly, I feel the same way right now. So, but you asked me why. Now, let me get serious for a moment. This two-party system is actually the very threat to the country that George Washington warned us about so long ago in his farewell address. And if George Washington warned us about that, should we not take a moment and reflect on how prescient that was? Because he called them factions, which, by the way, did not exist when he was president. But he said factions would undermine this democracy when people became so focused on beating each other that they lose focus on trying to win for this country. And he is right. Now, I only joined Congress after the 2016 election, and I found my daughter Pia in tears in her bedroom. She had just overcome Hodgkin's lymphoma. She's a gay woman. I didn't know that at the time. But I saw fear in her eyes that as a parent, any of you could understand, jarred me. And I sat at my table that morning and I promised my daughters I would do something. I ran for Congress. Little did I know how bad it really was. How offensively divisive, how offensively separate both leaders on both sides of the aisle have been for generations. So yes, I've seen now from the outside, building businesses, nonprofit sector, and now 3 terms on the inside, that this is sickeningly broken. And yes, we need competition. I'm a proud Democrat telling all of you, we need competition. I think primaries are good. I think both political parties need competition. But I'll tell you what, they don't want it. They want to protect a duopoly that is destructive to this democracy. And I think there's nothing more un-American than propagating, enabling, and allowing 2 political parties that are private enterprises from seizing this country from all of us. By the way, who are these people? Who are these people behind that curtain pulling these levers? Who are they? Isn't it kind of strange in America we do not even know who they are? That's part of the problem. I'm going to run as a Democrat because I intend to repatriate decency, transparency, and integrity to a party in which I deeply believe, that has done this country a great service, I believe, over the last number of decades, but has lost its way, and clearly the GOP has as well. So that's my proposition. I want to do it authentically. I want to do it transparently, and I want to do it decently, and that means from the inside. But should I fail? Should Democratic voters around the country say, no, we want the same thing? That's everybody's choice. But I will not rest, I promise you that. Andrew Yang ran as a Democrat. He saw the same thing happen, and he decided, I'm not going to just sit down and shush up. I'm going to try to do something about it. He's creating competition. If you notice, I'm joining forces with the competitor who recognizes that competition is good. A third party in this country would push the 2 parties together because you can no longer win when the exhausted majority of center-right and center-left Americans actually are represented. Now that might shock people in Washington. There are people watching this right now at the Democratic National Committee saying, we really got to take him down now. He's trying to actually create competition. What a horror. I don't think I need to say more on this subject, everybody. Help me though. Help me on a last mission.
Woo! Go, Dean!
We've got time for one more question, folks. One more question.
I always get so saddened when it's only one more question.
Okay.
Who's got the question? Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I got to see you at Havenwood in Concord
Yes, oh, yeah.
for all the young people.
Yes, for the youth